In our Tech Watch tonight, Cox Media Group's local solutions admitted to listening to conversations through phones and smart speakers, then using that data for targeted advertising. I knew it wasn't crazy, Shayna. Happens far too often. That webpage has since been taken down.
We all knew this, right? We've all had these conversations. You know, I didn't Google that. I was just talking in the car, and suddenly these ads are popping up everywhere. But this is the first evidence of a company admitting to so-called active listening.
Yeah, so we want to talk about this and also how you can avoid it just in case. David Derigiotis here with us, Chief Insurance Officer with Embroker. Thank you for being here, also a cyber expert. So how is this happening? How are they able to do this?
Yeah, it's through a Trojan horse, really. It's likely through the apps and the games that are being downloaded on your phone, in addition to a number of others, like smart speakers, looking at televisions, things of that nature. 142 billion downloads were made last year, apps and games worldwide. Some of those apps, they're legit, they're great, we use them every single day, but many of them, they're used simply for the purpose of sucking up as much information about you as they can.
So all of these devices are listening to us. Who is listening through them? Is it AI or is it human beings in a room somewhere listening to Terrence and Shayna?
Yeah, well, this particular company talked about the use of artificial intelligence. So they are collecting that information and they're using AI to parse through and look at all of these different audio clips that are being collected and maintained on all of us. So yeah, it is technology that's being utilized.
Should we feel rest assured about the fact that it's AI, or should that be an even bigger concern?
Yeah, I don't think it makes me feel any better at all, because you look at how this information is collected. We don't know how they're storing it, how they're protecting it. You add that in with all the other types of information, all the data points that are being collected on all of us. We know that this data has been breached in the past, so now we're just going to continue to add and compound and give more to them.
Yeah, and we're so used to, you know, if we're not making a call or writing a message or prompting voice to text, the phone's not active. But like you said, we don't know how they're doing this. So the phone could be just sitting there and they're collecting these words, right?
That's exactly what's taking place. And I think the most important thing that we all need to do is we have to do an inventory. Look at the apps that are on our phone. On average, Americans have about 80 apps on their phones. Between 8 and 10 are used on a regular basis. Go through, take a look. It's time to clean house. Get rid of the apps that you don't use or you very rarely use. In addition to that, make sure you go into the settings and the privacy and security. Look at what particular access you're giving to these apps. Are you giving voice? Are you giving camera, contact information, photos? All of it adds up, and they're collecting as much as they possibly can.
It seems overwhelming. So without rejecting the modern world and living under a rock and getting rid of your TV and never using a smartphone, how can you avoid it when we're all surrounded by devices? We have devices on us almost all the time.
Yeah, I think really it's just doing your due diligence. Take a look at what apps are you utilizing, what is important to you on a daily basis, what access are you giving it. If there are certain apps that you're dependent upon and it needs access to the microphone or the camera or your location, give it while you're specifically using it. Then go back, shut it off, make sure that it doesn't have that access when you're not utilizing it. That, I think, is a very important thing to consider.
AI has shown that it can be so useful in so many ways, but it almost seems like these developers have a bit of an insatiable need for more. It's just like it's growing too quickly and it's collecting too much. Do you think that this is getting a little dangerous?
Well, artificial intelligence is a very powerful tool, and it lives on data. So as much data as it can wrap its arms around and ingest and parse and make decisions with, that's exactly what it does, and what it does very well. We are seeing advancements. They are taking place very quickly. It's just important to understand, what are we sharing, how are we sharing it, and where can we limit that information when it makes sense.
You know, we always want our viewers to understand the concern and the risk without fear-mongering. So what is the appropriate level of fear? Should we be afraid to talk around our homes? If I say, hey, Terrence, I robbed a bank, can I expect police to show up at my door?
That's certainly not going to be the case, but I think we do have to also understand that there is somebody or someone that's listening. So again, take a look. What apps are you utilizing? What privacy settings do you have for that smart television? Any smart device that you have in your home, that personal assistant? Use it to the extent where you're getting value from it. Limit it when you're not using it, or if it's something that's just sitting dormant for a while, consider deleting it.
I was just going to ask you, because you mentioned that it could be the apps, but sometimes there's other things to look out for as well, other devices. Also for people who may be of a particular age who aren't really used to any of this stuff. Are there things that they can do to safeguard themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think make sure that you're taking advantage of those in your life, your loved ones. You know, rely on a son, rely on a daughter, rely on a parent, whomever it may be, to help guide you through that process. Again, it's doing an inventory, looking at what are the settings that I have on this particular TV, what are the settings that I have for this digital assistant that I utilize on a daily basis. Having someone either walk you through it or help just you research it to make sure that you're restricting where it makes sense. Those are very important steps that everyone can take.
And then finally, are there any just simple kind of low-tech ways to protect yourself, habits? Do you leave the phone in the other room? Try not to be surrounded by devices all the time?
Sure. You can certainly put the phone on airplane mode or power it down when you're not utilizing it. I think that's something very easy that anyone can do. There are Faraday bags that will lock out any of the communications and the signals going back and forth. Things like that, you can help limit the exposure and help limit what you're sharing.
Okay, fascinating information. I don't think it shocks anyone, but very disconcerting nonetheless.
Completely agree.
All right, David Derigiotis, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.